And
it shows the curse
of
map.
Iran's terror axis.
It shows the curse, this axis
Of Iran's terror axis.
threatened the peace of the entire world.
This axis
It threatened the stability of our region, of the entire world, and the very existence of my country. It threatened the stability of our region.
Iran
And the very existence of my country,
developing
a massive nuclear weapons program, was rapidly developing a massive nuclear weapons program.
These were meant
And
not
a
only to
massive
destroy
ballistic
Israel.
missile program. They were meant
These
also
were meant
to
not
threaten
only
the
to
United
destroy
States
Israel.
and blackmail
They were meant
nations
also to
everywhere. Threaten the United States from Gaza and blackmail
Yahya
nations
Sinwar
everywhere.
dispatched waves of Hamas
From
terrorists.
Gaza, Yahya Sinwar
They stormed into Israel
dispatched waves of
on
Hamas
October
terrorists
7th.
and committed
They stormed
acts
into
of
Israel
unspeakable savagery
on October 7th.
and committed
From Lebanon,
acts of unspeakable
Hassan
savagery.
Nasrallah
had launched thousands of
From
missiles
Lebanon,
and rockets at our cities. Hassan Nasrallah
terrorizing
had launched
our citizens.
thousands of missiles and rockets at our
In
cities.
Syria,
The murderous
terrorizing our
dictator
citizens.
Assad hosted
Syria,
Iran's forces. The murderous
tightening
dictator
a noose of
Assad
death around our throats.
hosted Iran's forces in Yemen.
Tightening
The
a noose
Houthis
of
launched
death
ballistic
around our
missiles at
throats.
Israel. While
In
choking
Yemen,
global trade,
the Houthis launched
at the
ballistic
mouth of the
missiles
Red
at
Sea.
Israel.
While
So
choking
what's happened
global
over the
trade
past year?
at the mouth of the Red Sea.
We've hammered the
Houthis.
So what's
Including
happened over the
yesterday.
past year?
We've
bulk of
hammered the
Hamas's
Houthis,
terror machine.
including yesterday. We crippled Hezbollah,
We crushed the bulk of
taking
Hamas's
out most
terror
of its
machine.
leaders. We
And much
crippled
of its weapons
Hezbollah,
arsenal.
taking out
You remember
most of
those
its
beepers?
leaders
The pagers?
and much of its weapons
We
arsenal.
paged Hezbollah. You remember those
And believe
beepers?
me,
The pagers?
they got the message. We paged Hezbollah.
And thousands of terrorists.
And believe me, they got the
Thousands
message.
of terrorists. And thousands of terrorists.
Dropped to the ground.
Thousands of terrorists.
We destroyed Assad's armaments in Syria.
Dropped to the ground.
We deterred Iran's Shiite
We
militias
destroyed
in Iraq.
Assad's
armaments in Syria.
And most importantly,
We
and
deterred
above
Iran's
anything
Shiite
else that I could
militias
say
in
to
Iraq.
you or that we did
And most
in
importantly,
this past year,
and above anything
past
else that
decade,
I could say to you or that
we
we
did
devastated Iran's
in this past
atomic
year,
weapons and ballistic
past
missiles programs. We devastated Iran's atomic weapons and ballistic missiles programs. So here's where things stand today. So here's where things stand today.
half the Houthi leadership
In Yemen,
Gone. Half the Houthi leadership,
in Yemen,
Sinwar,
in Gaza,
gone. Gone. Yahya
Nasser
Sinwar,
in Gaza, Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon,
gone. Gone.
Nasser, the Assad
Hassan
regime
Nasrallah
in
in
Lebanon,
Syria, gone. Gone. Those
the Assad regime in
militias in
Syria,
Iraq, gone.
well, they're still deterred.
Those
And their leaders,
militias
if
in
they
Iraq,
attack Israel, well, they're still
will
deterred.
also be gone.
And their leaders, if they
And
attack
for
Israel, Iran's top
will also
military
be gone.
commanders and its top
And for
atomic bomb scientists, Iran's top military commanders,
Well, they're gone too.
and its top atomic bomb scientists,
Well, they're gone too.
Israel's 12-day war with Iran, which I renamed Operation
Israel's
Rising
12-day
Lion,
war
that's
with
from the
Iran,
Bible, which I
this
renamed
12-day
Operation
war
Rising
will
Lion,
go
that's
down
from the
in
Bible.
the
annals of military history.
This 12-day
Our
war
daring pilots
will go down in
neutralize
the
Iran's
annals of
missile
military
defenses,
history.
and
Our
took
daring
control
pilots
of the skies over
neutralized
Tehran's
Iran,
missile defenses,
And you saw
and
this.
took control
Israeli
of the fighter
skies
pilots
over
and
Tehran.
American B-2 pilots, bombed
And you saw
Iran's
this.
nuclear enrichment
Israeli
sites.
fighter pilots and American
I want to
B-2
thank President
pilots
Trump
bombed
for his
Iran's
bold
nuclear
and decisive
enrichment
action.
sites.
I want to thank President Trump for his bold and decisive action. President Trump and I promised to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons.
President Trump and I
we delivered
promised to
on that
prevent
promise from developing nuclear weapons, and we delivered on that promise. We removed an existential threat to Iran, to Israel rather,
and a mortal threat to
we
the
removed
civilized
an
world.
existential threat to
We
Iran,
lifted a
to Israel
dark
rather,
cloud
and a
that could
mortal
have claimed
threat to the
millions
civilized world.
and
millions of
We
lives.
lifted a dark cloud
that could have
ladies
claimed
and gentlemen,
millions and millions
we must
of
remain
lives. Vigilant. But we must
ladies and
remain
gentlemen,
absolutely
we must remain
clear-minded
vigilant.
and vigilant. We must not allow Iran to rebuild its military nuclear capacities. We must not allow Iran of enriched uranium to rebuild its military nuclear capacities. These stockpiles, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium, and tomorrow, UN Security Council sanctions on Iran must be snapped back. UN Security Council sanctions on Iran must be snapped back. Thanks to the resolve of our people, the courage of our soldiers, and the bold resolve of our people, Israel rebounded from its darkest day, and the bold to deliver one of the most stunning military comebacks in history. To deliver one of the most stunning military comebacks in history. But we're not done yet. The final elements, the final remnants, we're not done yet, are holed up in Gaza City. The final elements, they vow remnants to repeat the atrocities of up in Gaza City. Again, they vow and again and again, to repeat the atrocities, no matter how diminished their forces. Again and again. That is why Israel, no matter how diminished their forces, that is why we want to do so. That is why Israel must finish the job. That is why we want to do so as fast as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, much of the world no longer remembers October 7th. Much of the world, but we remember, no longer remembers October 7th. But we remember. On that day, Israel remembers October 7th. Well, I'll tell you, you can remember October 7th too. On that day, you see this large pin here? Well, I'll tell you, you can remember October 7th. It's a QR code. You see this what I ask you to do is hold up your phone, code. Zoom in. What I ask you to do, and you too will see, is hold up your phone. Why we fight, zoom in, and why we must you too win. Will see why we fight, it's all and why we must win. On October 7th, Hamas carried out the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. On October 7th, they slaughtered carried out the worst attack on Jews, including over 40 Americans. They slaughtered 1,200 nationals from dozens of countries, over 40 Americans, and 4 nationals men from dozens of countries. They raped women here. They burnt babies alive. They burnt babies alive in front of their parents. They burnt babies alive. They burnt babies alive in front of their parents. And these monsters took more than 250 people hostage. And these monsters, and those included, took more than 250 people hostage. Grandmothers included. Grandmothers and their grandchildren. Who takes hostage grandmothers and grandchildren? Grandmothers and their grandchildren. Who takes hostage grandmothers and grandchildren? We've brought home 207 of these hostages. So far, 48 still brought home 207 of these hostages. But 48 of them are alive, still remain in the dungeons of Gaza, starved, tortured. 20 of them are alive, deprived of any daylight, starved, tortured, deprived of humanity, deprived of any daylight. These are the names of the 20 living deprived hostages. Of humanity. Matan Angres, these are the names of Gali and Zir Berman brothers. Matan Angres, Elkanah Buchbot, Gali and Zir Berman brothers. Nimrod Cohen, Elkanah Ariel and David Cunyo, another pair of brothers. Nimrod Cohen, Ariel and David Cunyo, another pair of brothers. You saw the picture of Eviatar David. You saw the picture of Eviatar's own grave. Maxim Herkin forced to dig his own grave. Segev Kalfon, Maxim Herkin, Bar Kupperstein, Eitan Hon, Omri Meran, Segev Kalfon, Mor, Bar Yosef Chaim Ochana, Omri Meran, Alon Ohel, Eitan Mor, Avinatam Or, Yosef Chaim Ochana, Matan Tsengaker, Alon Ohel, Avinatam Or. Ladies and gentlemen, and Matan Tsengaker, I want to do something now I've never done before. I want to speak from this forum. I've never done before. To those hostages. I want to speak from this forum. I've surrounded Gaza with massive loudspeakers connected to this microphone. I've surrounded Gaza with massive loudspeakers that our dear hostages connected to this microphone. And I'll say it first in Hebrew that our dear hostages will hear my message. אחינו הגיבורים, I'll say it first in Hebrew, מדבר ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו. אחינו הגיבורים, אני פונה עליכם, מדבר ראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו. לא שכחנו אתכם. אני פונה עליכם, אפילו לא לשנייה, מעל בימת האו"ם. העם כולו לא שכחנו אתכם. ואנחנו אפילו לא לשנייה, ולא נרפה, העם כולו עד שנחזיר את כולכם הביתה. החיים והחללים כאחד. עד שנחזיר את כולכם הביתה. החיים והחללים כאחד. Our brave heroes. This is Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking to you live from the United Nations. This is Prime Minister Netanyahu. We have not forgotten you. Speaking not even for a second from the United Nations. The people of Israel are with not forgotten you. Not even for a falter, and we will not rest. The people of Israel until we bring all of you home. We will not falter, and we will not rest until we bring all of you home. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to special efforts by Israeli intelligence, ladies and gentlemen, my words are now also being carried. Thanks to special efforts by Israeli intelligence, to the cell phones, my words are now also being carried. So to the remaining Hamas leaders, to the cell phones, and to the jailers of our hostages. So to the remaining Hamas leaders, lay down your arms of our hostages. Let my people go. Lay down your arms, all of them. The whole 48. Let my people go. Free the hostages. Free the hostages now. All of them. The whole 48. Free the hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you. You will live. Down. If you don't, ladies and gentlemen, Israel will hunt you down. If Hamas agrees to our demands, the war could end right now. If Hamas agrees to Gaza would be demilitarized, the war could end. Israel would retain overriding security control. Gaza would be demilitarized. And a peaceful civilian authority would retain overriding by Gazans and others. And a peaceful civilian authority would be established by Gazans and others. You understand? Committed to peace with Israel. The war in Gaza has affected every Israeli. You understand that? But I'm sure there are people in New York. The war in Gaza has affected every Israeli. In Melbourne. And I'm sure there are people in New York who are probably thinking, or in Melbourne, what does all of this have to do with me? Who are probably thinking, and the answer is, what does all of this have to do with me? Because our enemies are your enemies. Everything. So because our enemies, first at the UN, are your enemies. Let's do a pop quiz. So let's do something else. Raise your hand first at the UN. Let's do a pop quiz. And raise your hand if you know the answer. Death to America. Here's the first question. Is it A, Iran? Who shouts B, Hamas? Death to America. C, is it Hezbollah, Iran? D, the Houthis? B, Hamas? E, all of the above. Hezbollah? D, the Houthis? Or E, correct, all of the above. Second question, all of the above. Correct, all of the above. Second question. Who has murdered Americans and Europeans in cold blood? Is it A, Al-Qaeda? Americans and Europeans Hamas? In cold blood. C, is it Hezbollah? A, Al-Qaeda? Iran? B, or E, Hamas? C, all of the above. D, Iran? Or E, correct, again, all of the above. So here's the point I wanted to make, again. Our enemies hate all of us. So here's the point I wanted to make. With equal venom. Our enemies want to drag the modern world back to the past. With equal venom. To a dark age of violence. They want to drag the modern world back to the past. To a dark age of violence, fanaticism in your own societies. The radical Islamist surge. I think many of you are already feeling, you know, in your own societies, the radical Islamist surge that Israel, you know, Israel is fighting your fight. You know deep down. So I want to tell you a secret. Israel behind closed doors, your fight. Many of the leaders who publicly condemn us, behind closed doors, many of the leaders who publicly condemn us, how much they value Israel's superb intelligence services. They tell me how much they value Israel's terrorist attacks in their capitals, that have prevented time and again countless lives. Terrorist attacks in their capitals. General George Keegan, time and again saving former head of U.S. Air Force Intelligence, once said, General George Keegan, if the United States had to gather on intelligence, once said, the intelligence that Israel gives us, if the United States had to gather on its own, the intelligence that Israel gives us, 5 CIAs. We would have to establish this past 5 CIAs. When Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, this German Chancellor Merz admitted when Israel struck Iran's nuclear facilities, he said, German Chancellor Merz admitted is doing the dirty work, he said, for all of us. Israel is doing, President Trump understands better than any other leader of us, that Israel in America, President Trump understands better than any other leader. He showed that the world Israel in America faced that when Iran and its proxies murder Americans, the world, take Americans hostage, that when Iran and its proxies murder American flags, take Americans hostage, assassinate the President of the United States, burn American flags, and try to assassinate the President of the United States. Try to assassinate the President of the United States. There is a price to pay for all that. He showed them there is a price to pay for all that. But regrettably, many leaders, were represented in this hall. Many leaders were represented in this hall. Sure, in the days immediately following October 7th, a very different message. Many of them supported Israel. Sure, in the days immediately following October 7th, but that support quickly evaporated. Many of them supported Israel. What any self-respecting nation would do in the wake of such a savage attack. What any self-respecting nation would do back in the wake of such a savage attack. We fought back. Now just imagine an attack against America. Just sit back for a second. To the attack against Israel, an attack against America. Imagine a regime against Israel on October 7th. Dispatching thousands of terrorists. Imagine a regime to invade the United States. Dispatching thousands of terrorists, 40,000 to invade the United States. They take 10,000 Americans, 40,000 Americans. What do you think America would do? They take 10,000 Americans. You think America would leave that regime standing? What do you think America would do? You think America, no way, would leave that regime standing? The United States would wipe out that terror regime and ensure that such savagery would never wipe out that America again. And ensure that this is precisely what Israel is doing in Gaza. America, we're wiping out the terror regime of Hamas. This is precisely what Israel is doing in Gaza. Will never wiping out the terror regime of Hamas. That's what we are doing. That's what any self-respecting Israel government would do. That's what we are doing. That's what any self-respecting government would do. Yet, and it's a yet that I'm sorry to say here. And it's a yet that yet over time, many world leaders buckled. Yet over time, they buckled under the pressure of a biased media. Many world leaders, radical Islamist constituencies, they buckled under the pressure of a biased media. Mobs. Radical Islamist constituencies. There's a familiar saying, and anti-Semitic mobs. When the going gets tough, there's a familiar saying, the tough get going. When the going gets tough, for many countries here, the tough got tough. Well, for many countries here, when the going got tough, and here's the shameful result of that collapse. For much of the past 2 years, Israel has had to fight a seven-front war against barbarism. Israel has had to fight a seven-front war against barbarism, with many of your nations opposing us. As we fight the terrorists who murdered many of your citizens, astoundingly, you are fighting us. The terrorists you condemn us. Many of your citizens. You embargo us. You are fighting political and legal warfare. You condemn us. It's called lawfare. You embargo us, and you wage political the representatives of those nations lawfare against us. This is not an indictment of Israel. I say to the representatives of those nations. It's an indictment of you. This is not an indictment of Israel. Of weak-kneed leaders. It's an indictment of you. Rather than support a nation, it's an indictment whose brave soldiers guard you who appease the barbarians at the gate. Rather than support a nation whose brave soldiers guard you. When will you learn? Barbarians at the gate. You can't appease your way out of jihad. And you want to escape the Islamist storm. You can't appease your way out of jihad. And you want to escape the Islamist storm. You have to stand by sacrificing Israel. To overcome that storm, what you're doing. You have to stand with Israel. As the prophets of Israel foretold in the Bible, what you're doing. You've turned good into evil. As the prophets of Israel and evil into good. You've turned good into evil. Now I want to drill down on this. And evil into good. Take the false charge of genocide. Now I want to drill down on this. Israel is accused of deliberately Take the false charge of genocide. Israel is accused of deliberately targeting civilians. The head of urban warfare studies. The opposite is true. Colonel John Spencer. The head of urban warfare studies on urban warfare. And he says, Colonel John Spencer, Israel is perhaps the world's more measures to minimize civilian casualties. And he says, than any military, more measures to minimize civilian casualties. And because we're doing that, than any the ratio of non-combatant to combatant casualties. And because we're doing less than 2 to 1 in the ratio of non-combatant to combatant casualties. That's an astoundingly low ratio. Less than 2 to 1 lower than NATO's wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's an astoundingly low ratio. Especially when you consider lower than NATO's wars in the most densely populated urban areas on Earth. Especially when you consider it has Gaza is one of the most densely populated urban areas on Earth. And it has countless
hundreds
towers
of miles of terror tunnels
above ground,
underground,
and thousands of
and it has
terrorists
countless
embedded
towers
in the tunnels and in
above
these towers
ground.
in civilian areas. And thousands of terrorists
If
embedded
you want to see what
in the
measures
tunnels and in
Israel
these towers in
takes
civilian
to
areas.
avoid civilian casualties in this war,
If you want to see
just
what
look at what
measures
we're doing
Israel
now
in
takes
Gaza
to
City,
avoid civilian
the
casualties
last
in this
Hamas
war,
stronghold, one of the two
just
last
look at what we're
strongholds.
doing now in Gaza
For
City.
3 weeks, the last Hamas
Israel
stronghold,
dropped
one of the
millions
two
of
last
leaflets,
strongholds, sent millions of
for
text
3 weeks,
messages,
and made
Israel
countless
dropped
phone calls
millions of leaflets,
urging civilians
sent
to leave
millions
Gaza
of text
City
messages
before
and
our
made
military
countless
moves
phone
in.
calls urging
At the
civilians
same
to
time,
leave Gaza City. Hamas implants
before our
itself in
military
mosques,
moves in.
schools, hospitals,
At the same
apartment
time,
buildings, Hamas
and
tries
implants
to
itself in
force
mosques,
those civilians
schools,
not to
hospitals,
leave,
apartment
to
buildings,
stay in harm's
and
way,
tries to force
and
those
it often
civilians
threatens them
not
at
to
gunpoint
leave if they try to do
stay
so.
in harm's way. For Israel,
And it often threatens
every
them at
civilian
gunpoint
casualty
if
is
they
a
try to do
tragedy.
so.
For Hamas,
For Israel,
it's a strategy.
every civilian casualty is a
Hamas
tragedy.
uses civilians as
For
human
Hamas,
shields and as
it's a
props
strategy.
in its sick propaganda
Hamas
war in
uses
Israel
civilians as human
against
shields
Israel and as
a
props
propaganda war
in
that the
its sick
Western media
propaganda
buys,
war in Israel,
hook, line, and sinker.
against Israel, a propaganda
Now,
war
despite
that the
Hamas's
Western media
threats,
buys close to
hook, line, and sinker.
700,000 Gazans. Now, despite Hamas's
Almost
threats,
750,000,
close to
have already heeded our
700,000
calls
Gazans and moved
almost
to safe
750,000
have already heeded
wanna
our
ask you a
calls
simple question.
and moved
A
to
simple,
safe zones.
logical question.
Now I want to ask you
Would
a
a
simple
country
question.
committing genocide
A simple, logical
plead
question.
with the civilian population
Would a
it is
country
supposedly
committing
targeting
genocide to get out of harm's way
plead with the civilian population
Would we
it
tell
is
them get
supposedly
out if we
targeting
want
to get out of
commit
harm's
genocide?
way? We're trying to get them out.
Would we tell them get
And
out?
Hamas is
if
trying to
we
keep
want
them in.
commit genocide? We're trying to
And
get
this
them
charge
out.
is so baseless.
And Hamas is trying to
The
keep them in.
comparison to genocide,
Wholesale
this charge is
slaughter
so
of populations.
baseless.
The comparison
What,
to
did the
genocide.
Nazis asked the Jews
Wholesale
to leave,
slaughter of
kindly leave,
populations.
go out?
Did
What, did
others,
the
Nazis
want me to name
asked
all the
Jews to
genocidal
leave, kindly leave, go out?
leaders of history?
Others,
Just
want
go
me to
one
name
by
all
one.
the
Did anyone
genocidal
do this? Did they say, get out?
leaders of history
So we can come in.
just go one
Of
by
course not.
one? Did anyone do this? So
Did
the
they say,
truth
"Get
has been
out"?
turned on its head.
So we can come in.
Hamas,
Of course not.
a genocidal terrorist,
So the truth has
organization
been turned on its
whose
head.
charter calls
Hamas,
for the murder of
a
all
genocidal
Jews on the
terrorist
planet,
organization,
whose charter
this
calls
genocidal
for the
organization
murder of
is
all
given a
Jews
pass.
on the
It's
planet.
barely mentioned.
This
While
genocidal
Israel,
organization
which does
is
everything
everything
it
it can
It's barely
to
mentioned.
get civilians out of harm's
While
way.
Israel
Israel
does
is putting everything
it
it can to get civilians
What
out of
a
harm's
joke.
way. Israel is put in the
Want to
dock.
hear another one?
What Israel is
a
accused
joke.
of deliberately
another one?
starving the people of Gaza. Israel is accused
When Israel is
of
deliberately
feeding
deliberately
the people of
starving
Gaza. the people of Gaza.
Since the beginning
When
of the
Israel
war,
is deliberately
Israel has let
feeding
into
the
Gaza
people of
more
Gaza.
than
2 million
Since the
tons
beginning
of
of the
food and
war,
aid. Israel has let
that's
into Gaza more
1
than
ton of
2
aid
million tons of food
for
every
every
man, woman, and
That's
child in Gaza.
1 ton of aid
Nearly 3,000 calories
for every man,
per person,
woman, and
per
child
day.
in Gaza.
Nearly
Some
3,000
starvation
calories per person. If there
per
are
day.
Gazans who don't have enough food,
Some
it's
starvation
because
policy.
Hamas is stealing
If
it.
there are Gazans who don't
Hamas
have enough
steals
food,
it, hoards it,
it's because
and sells it
Hamas
at exorbitant
is
prices
stealing it
to fight its
Hamas
war
steals
machine. Hoards it
Last
and
month,
sells it at exorbitant prices
the UN,
to fight its war machine.
Not exactly a supporter.
Last
of
month,
You're
even the
supposed
UN.
to laugh, by the way. Not exactly a supporter.
Last
of
month, even
You're
the
supposed
UN
to laugh, by the way.
admitted that Hamas and
Last
other
month,
armed groups
even the
looted
UN
85%
admitted
of the
that
trucks.
Hamas
and other armed groups
That's why you have
looted
deprivation.
85% of the trucks.
Those who peddled the blood libels of
why
genocide
you
and
have
starvation
deprivation.
against Israel are no better
Those who
than
peddled
those
the
who
blood
peddled
libels of
blood
genocide
libels
and
against the
starvation
Jews
against
in
Israel
the Middle Ages
are no better than
when
those
they
who
falsely
peddled
accused
blood
us
libels
of
against the
poisoning
Jews
wells in the Middle
spreading plague
Ages
and
when
using
they
the blood of
falsely
children
accused us
to
of
bake
poisoning
Passover
wells,
matzahs, spreading plague and using the blood of children to
Anti-Semitism.
bake Passover matzahs. Dies hard. In fact, it doesn't die at all. It just keeps
Dies
coming
hard.
back with
In
its
fact, it doesn't
libelous
die at all.
lies. It just keeps coming back,
refurbished
with its libelous
regurgitated
lies
over and over again.
refurbished, regurgitated.
And I want to tell you something
over
else.
and over again.
These anti-Semitic lies,
And I want to tell you something else.
they have consequences.
These
In
anti-Semitic
recent
lies,
months,
Jews
they
have been
have
assaulted in
consequences.
Canada,
in
Austria,
recent months,
or rather Australia. Jews have
Britain,
been assaulted in Canada,
France,
Austria,
the Netherlands,
or
and
rather
elsewhere.
Australia, Britain, here in
France,
America. The Netherlands, an elderly
and
Holocaust survivor, here
was
in
burned to
America.
death in Colorado.
An elderly Holocaust
In a
survivor,
beautiful
young couple was burned to death in Colorado.
Washington was
And a
brutally gunned
beautiful
down
young couple
from the Israeli
right in
embassy in
front of the
Washington
Holocaust Museum there.
was brutally gunned down.
Thankfully,
President
right in front of
Trump's
the Holocaust Museum
administration
there.
is forcefully fighting
Thankfully,
the scourge of anti-Semitism.
President Trump's administration
And every
is
government here
forcefully
should follow
fighting
its lead.
the scourge of anti-Semitism.
But instead,
And every government
many
here
do the
should follow
opposite.
its lead. But
They
instead,
actually reward.
many do the opposite.
Reward the worst
They
anti-Semites on
actually
earth.
reward. This week,
Reward
the leaders
the
of
worst
France,
anti-Semites
Britain,
on earth.
Australia, Canada,
This
and
week,
other countries. The leaders of
unconditionally
France, Britain,
recognized a
Australia,
Palestinian
Canada,
state.
and other countries
unconditionally
recognized a
after
Palestinian state.
the horrors committed by Hamas on October
They
7th.
did so
Horrors
after praised on
the
that
horrors
day
committed by Hamas
by
on
nearly
October 7th.
90% of the
Horrors
Palestinian
praised on
population.
that day. Let me
By
say that
nearly
again.
90%,
Nearly
of the
90%
of Palestinians
Let me say that
supported
again.
the attack
on October 7th.
Nearly 90% of Palestinians
It's not supported
supported
only. They
the attack
celebrated.
on October 7th. They danced on the rooftops.
It's not supported only.
They threw
celebrated.
candies. They danced
That's
on the
both-
rooftops.
both in Gaza
They threw candies.
and in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank.
That's
as you call it.
both in Gaza
And
it's just the way
in
they
Judea,
celebrated
Samaria, the West Bank, as you call it.
another horror.
9/11.
And it's just the way they
They
celebrated
danced on the rooftops.
another horror.
9/11.
They cheered.
They
They
threw
danced
candy.
on the rooftops. You know what message
They cheered.
the leaders
They
who
threw
recognized
candy.
the Palestinian state this week.
You know
sent
what
to the
message
Palestinians?
the
leaders who recognized the
very
Palestinian
clear message.
state this week sent to the Palestinians.
Murdering Jews
pays
It's a very
off.
clear message. Well,
Murdering
I have a
Jews
message for these leaders.
Pays off. When the most savage terrorists
Well,
on
I
earth
have a message for
are
these
effusively praising your decision.
When the most savage terrorists
you didn't
on
do
earth
something right.
are effusively
You did
praising
something
your decision.
wrong. Horribly
You didn't
wrong.
do something right. Your disgraceful
did something
decision
wrong.
will encourage
Horribly
terrorism
wrong.
against Jews and
Your
against innocent
disgraceful
people
decision
everywhere. Will encourage
It will
terrorism
be a
against
mark
Jews
of shame on all
and
of you.
against innocent people everywhere.
It will be a mark of
Wait a
shame
minute, Mr.
on
Prime
all of
Minister,
you.
they tell me. Wait a minute.
We believe in a two-state solution.
Wait a minute, Mr. Prime
where the
Minister,
Jewish
they tell
state
me.
of Israel
Wait a minute.
will live
We
side by
believe in a
side
two-state
in peace
solution
with the Palestinian
where
state.
the Jewish
state of Israel will live
There's
side
only
by
one problem
side
with that.
in peace with the Palestinian
The Palestinians,
They don't believe in this
there's only one
solution.
problem with that.
They never have. The Palestinians
They don't want a state.
They
next
don't
to
believe
Israel.
in this solution.
They want a
They never have.
Palestinian state
They don't want a
instead
state
of Israel.
next to Israel.
And that's why
They
every
want
time
a Palestinian
they
state
were offered a Palestinian
instead
state,
of Israel.
but were
And
required
that's why
to
every
end the
time
conflict with Israel.
they were
and
offered a
recognize the
Palestinian
Jewish
state.
state, but were
Every
required
time.
to end the conflict with Israel
Over the
and
decades.
recognize the Jewish state.
They turned it down.
every time.
And that is why every time
Over the
they were
decades,
given territory,
they turned it down.
they used it
And that is
to
why
attack us.
every time they were
In
given
fact,
territory,
They effectively
they used
had
it
a Palestinian
to attack
state
us.
in Gaza.
In fact,
so
they
what did they do
effectively
with that
had
state?
a Palestinian state.
Peace in Gaza.
Coexistence.
So what
No.
did they do with that
They
state?
attacked us time
Peace.
and time again. Coexistence.
Totally unprovoked.
No.
They fired
They
rockets
attacked
into
us
our cities.
time
They
and
murdered
time
our
again.
children. Totally
They turned
unprovoked.
Gaza
they fired
into a terror
rockets
base
into our cities. They
from
murdered
which they
our
committed
children.
the October 7th massacre.
They turned Gaza into a terror base.
So here's the
from which they
uncomfortable
committed
truth.
the October 7th massacre.
The persistent Palestinian rejection
So
of
here's
a
the
Jewish
uncomfortable
state
truth.
in any boundary. The persistent
Is what has
Palestinian
driven this
rejection
conflict
of
for
a
over a
Jewish
century.
state in
It is
any
still
boundary.
driving it.
Is what has driven this
It's not
conflict
the
for
absence
over
of a
century.
Palestinian state.
It is still driving it.
It's the presence and existence
It's not the
of a
absence of a
Jewish
Palestinian
state.
And I find it amazing.
It's the presence and existence
Amazing.
of a Jewish state.
that the foreign chancellor
and I find it amazing.
ministries
And all those who
Amazing.
pontificate about this.
that the foreign
and the
chancellors
leaders and the ministries. And
How
all
can they
those who
not see this
pontificate
basic truth
about
when it
this?
is repeated
And the leaders.
again and again and again?
How
ad
can they
nauseam?
not see this basic truth when it is
And I want to say
repeated
something else.
again and again and again?
This
ad
rejection
nauseam?
of a Jewish state
not only
And I want to
applies
say
to
something
Hamas,
else. This
it also
rejection of a
applies
Jewish
to
state,
the so-called
not only
moderate
applies to
Palestinian
Hamas,
Authority. It also applies
You should
to the
know
so-called moderate
that the Palestinian
authorities
pays terrorists
You should know
to slay Jews.
that the Palestinian
The more
authorities
Jews the terrorists slay,
pays
the more the
terrorists
Palestinian
to slay
Authority
Jews.
pays. The more Jews
The Palestinian
terrorists
Authority
slay,
names
more
its
the Palestinian
government
Authority
buildings,
pays.
its public squares,
The Palestinian
its
Authority
schools, names
after
its
the mass
government
murderers
buildings,
of Jews,
its public squares,
which they glorify
its schools,
as martyrs.
after the mass murderers
pay
of
and
Jews,
glorify not
which
just
they
the killer of
glorify
Jews as martyrs,
but also killers of
they
Christians.
pay and glorify not
Christians
just
like
the killer
killer
of
force,
Jews
An American
also
veteran
killers of Christians.
who was brutally murdered in Israel
like Taylor
by
Force.
Palestinian terrorists. An American veteran who was brutally
But-
murdered
but-
in Israel
again,
by Palestinian
that I
terrorists.
hear from the Western leaders.
They tell me.
Again,
the
but-
PA promised
that I hear
us
from the Western leaders.
it will reform.
They tell me.
And I know
PA
this time,
promised us
Prime Minister, it will be different.
It will reform.
And I
Yeah,
know this
right.
time, Prime Minister,
We've heard
it will be different.
these promises
for decades.
Yeah, right.
They always promise.
We've heard these
they
promises
never
for
deliver.
decades.
They
Because you see,
always
the Palestinian
promise.
Authority
They never
is
deliver.
corrupt to the core. They
Because
haven't
you see,
held
the Palestinian
elections
Authority
in 20 years.
is corrupt
They
to
use
the
the
core.
same textbooks as
They
Hamas.
haven't held
Exactly
elections
the
in
same
20 years.
textbooks.
They
teach
use the
their
same
children
textbooks
to
as
hate
Hamas
Jews
exactly
and destroy the
same
Jewish state.
textbooks. They teach
And
their
Christians
children
don't fare
to
much
hate
better.
Jews and destroy the Jewish
When
state.
Bethlehem,
and
the
Christians don't
birthplace of
fare
Jesus,
much better.
was under Israeli control.
When Bethlehem, 80% of its
the
residents
birthplace of
were
Jesus,
Christians.
was under Israeli
But since
control.
the PA took control, 80% of its residents
that number
were
has
Christians.
dwindled to under 20%.
But since the PA took control,
that
these
number
are the people
has
you want to
dwindled
give a state
under
to?
20%.
What you're doing
These
is
are the
giving the
people you
ultimate
want to give a
reward
state to?
intolerant
What you're
fanatics
doing
who perpetrated is
and
giving the
supported
ultimate
the
reward
October 7th
to
massacre.
intolerant fanatics who
Giving the
perpetrated
Palestinians a
and
state
supported
the
1 mile from
October 7th
Jerusalem
massacre.
after October 7th, giving the
is
Palestinians
like giving
a state
Al-Qaeda a state
1 mile from
1 mile
Jerusalem
from New
after
York City
October 7th,
after September
is like
11th.
giving Al-Qaeda a
This
state
is sheer
1 mile from
madness.
New York City
It's insane.
after September
and we
11th.
won't do
This
it. This is sheer madness. It's insane, and we won't do it.
So here's another message to those Western leaders. Israel will not allow
So
you
here's another
to
message
shove
to
a
those
terrorist
Western
state
leaders.
down our throats.
Israel
We will
not
not allow
commit
you
national
to
suicide
shove a terrorist state
because
down
you
our
don't have the
throats.
guts to
We will
face
not
down a
commit
hostile
national
media
suicide
and anti-Semitic
because
mobs
you don't have the
demanding
guts
Israel's blood.
to face down a hostile media
And
and
I want you
anti-Semitic mobs demanding Israel's blood.
to grasp something else,
And I want
which is
you
also distorted in the media. To
I say
grasp
this
something else,
not
which
only
is
in
also
my name
distorted in the media.
or the name of my
I
government,
say this not only
but on
in my
behalf
name
of all
or
the name of
people
my
Israel.
government.
Last year
But
there
on
was a vote
behalf
in the Knesset, our
of
parliament,
all
the people of Israel.
whether or not to oppose the
Last year there
imposition
was a
of a
vote in the
Palestinian
Knesset, our
state,
parliament.
whether
Wanna
or
guess what
not
the
to
results
oppose
were?
the imposition of a Palestinian
Out of
state.
120 members of our parliament, you want to guess what the results were?
99 voted against.
Out of 120 members of our
And only
parliament,
9
supported.
99
That's over
voted
90%.
against.
And
It's
only
not a
9
fringe
supported.
group.
That's over
It's not,
90%.
The prime minister,
It's not
who
a fringe
himself
group.
is extreme.
It's not,
or he's held hostage.
the prime
by
minister who
extreme,
himself is
parties to his
extreme,
right.
or he's
It's
held
over
hostage
90%
by
of
extreme,
Israelis. Parties to his right.
My opposition
It's over
to a Palestinian
90%
state
of
is not
Israelis.
simply my policies or my
My
government's
opposition
policy.
to a Palestinian
It's the
state
policy
is not simply
of the
my
state
policy
and people
or
of
my
the
government's
state of
policy.
Israel. It's the policy of the state and people of the state of Israel. Western leaders may have buckled under the pressure. Western leaders, and I guarantee you one thing, may have
Israel
buckled under the
won't.
pressure. And I
Israel's
guarantee you one
victories
thing.
over the Iranian
Israel
won't.
Thank you. I know you won't too. That's good. Israel's victories
Israel's
over the
victories
Iranian
over the
Thank
Iranian
you. I
terror
know you
axis
won't too. That's good.
have opened up
Israel's
possibilities for
victories
peace
over the
that
Iranian
were
terror axis
unthinkable 2 years ago.
have opened up possibilities for
Syria.
peace for
That
decades.
were unthinkable.
The
2
very
years
idea
ago.
of peace between Israel
Take
and Syria
Syria.
seemed
For decades.
unimaginable. The very
no
idea of
more.
peace between Israel and Syria
Today,
seemed unimaginable. We have begun
no
serious
more.
negotiations with
Today,
the new Syrian government. We have
I
begun
believe an agreement
serious
can be reached
negotiations
that
with the
respects
new Syrian
Syria's
sovereignty and protects
I
both
believe an
Israeli
agreement can be
security
reached
and the
that
security of
respects
the
Syria's
minorities
sovereignty
in the region
and protects both Israeli
including
security
the Druze
and the
minority.
security of the minorities
From
in
the
the
founding
region,
of Israel,
including
Jews
the
and
Druze
Druze minority.
have been brothers in
From
arms.
the founding of Israel, we have fought
Jews and
together,
Druze have been brothers
we
in
bled
arms.
together, we
We
built
have
our
fought
lives
together.
together.
We've bled
When I was a
together.
young commander in Israel's
We
special
built our
forces,
lives together.
my own life, when I was a young
saved
commander in Israel's
by the
special
invaluable
forces,
advice
given to
my
me
own
by a
life
great friend, was saved, Salim Shufi,
by the invaluable
a heroic
advice
Druze
given to me
IDF
by a
veteran.
great friend,
And that's why I couldn't sit idly by. Druze IDF veterans. Nor could Israel sit idly by. And that's why I couldn't sit idly by. While the Druze were being slaughtered by jihadists. Nor could Israel sit idly by. And I instructed our forces while the Druze were being slaughtered by jihadists, which they promptly did. And I instructed our forces to stop the massacre. Peace between Israel and Lebanon, which they promptly did. Is possible as well. Peace between Israel and the Lebanese government is possible to also begin direct negotiations with Israel. I call on the Lebanese government. I commend it for its declared aim to also begin direct negotiations with Israel. To disarm Hezbollah. I commend it for its declared aim more than words. To disarm Hezbollah. If Lebanon takes genuine and sustained action more than words. To disarm Hezbollah. If Lebanon takes genuine and sustained action, a sustainable peace. To disarm Hezbollah, I'm sure until that happens, we will take whatever action we need to defend ourselves. Of course, until that happens, to maintain we will take whatever action the conditions of the ceasefire which was established in Lebanon. Maintain the conditions of the ceasefire which was established in Lebanon. Monitor Hezbollah's actions. Our goal is not to prevent them from violating the ceasefire. Monitor Hezbollah's actions at any time. But to prevent them from violating the ceasefire, that if the Lebanese government at any time persists, but I'm sure in its goal of disarming Hezbollah, that if the Lebanese government peace will come persist in its goal of disarming Hezbollah, victory over Hezbollah has made peace possible with our two neighbors, our two Arab neighbors. Victory over Hezbollah has made peace possible with our two neighbors, will make peace possible Arab neighbors in the north. With nations throughout the Arab and Muslim world, will make peace possible with nations throughout the Arab and Muslim world and expansion. Our victory historic Abraham would lead to a dramatic which President Trump brokered between Arab leaders and myself. The historic Abraham Accord 5 years ago, which President Trump brokered between Arab leaders and myself, as I'm sure you did too, 5 years ago. Of the encouraging words spoken here, and I took note by the President of Indonesia. Of the encouraging words spoken with the largest Muslim by the President of Indonesia of all nations. This is the country with the largest Muslim population of what could come of all nations. Forward-looking Arabs and Muslim leaders know that cooperating with Israel will provide them Arabs and Muslim leaders Israeli technologies. Know that cooperating with Israel, including in medicine will provide them with groundbreaking Israeli technologies, in defense, including in medicine, so many other science, in agriculture, and water. I believe that in the coming years, and AI, and so many other, the Middle East will look. I believe that in the coming years, dramatically different. The Middle East, many of those who wage war on Israel today, dramatically different, will be gone tomorrow. Many of those who wage war on Israel today will take their place, will be gone tomorrow. And nowhere will brave peacemakers will take their place than in Iran. And nowhere, the long-suffering Iranian people more true will regain their freedom than in Iran. They will make Iran great again. Will regain our two ancient peoples. They will make Iran great again. And our two ancient peoples, the people of Israel and the people of Iran, our two ancient peoples, friendship, the people of Israel, the people of Iran, will restore a friendship, ladies and gentlemen, will benefit the entire world. The horrors that happened, ladies and gentlemen, on one dark day, October 7th, the horrors that happened, those horrors on one dark day, happened countless times during the centuries of my people's exiles among the nations. Happened countless times. Jewish blood, the centuries of my people's exiles among the nations. Jews were killed with impunity. Jewish blood was cheap. We had to beg others. Jews were killed with impunity. The rise of Israel, we had to beg others, did not mean that the attempts to destroy us would end. The rise of Israel we could fight back did not against those that the attempts to destroy us would end. And that is exactly what it meant, that we could fight back against those attempts. And our sons and daughters fought like lions since October 7th. Our brave soldiers, our sons and daughters fought like lions. They were armed with the dreams, donned their uniforms, of the 100 generations of Jews who came before them. They were armed with the dream of living as a free people in the land of Israel who came before our beloved homeland for more than 3,000 years in the land of Israel. Dreams of living our beloved homeland for more than 3,000 years. The dream of having an army, dreams of living ourselves in our own independent state, of being a light unto the having an army, a beacon of progress, ingenuity, innovation, being a light unto the benefit of all humanity, a beacon of progress, ingenuity, on October 7th, innovation. The enemies of Israel of all humanity tried to extinguish that light. On October 7th, 2 years later, the enemies of Israel, the resolve of Israel, to extinguish and the strength of Israel, burns brighter than ever. The resolve of God's help and the strength of Israel burns brighter than ever. Would lead us to a speedy victory and to a brilliant future. And that resolve of prosperity would lead us to a speedy victory. Thank you very much. Future of prosperity and peace. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the State of Israel. I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the State of Israel. The Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Muhammad Shehbaz Sharif. Will now hear an address by His Excellency Republic Muhammad Shehbaz Sharif. Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic His Excellency of Pakistan, and invite him to address the Assembly. To escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق ليس البر أن تولوا ولكن البر قبل المشرق من آمن بالله ولكن اليوم الآخر من آمن بالله والكتاب والنبي واليوم الآخر وآتى الملائكة والكتاب والنبي ذوي القربى واليتامى وآتى المال والمساكين وابن السبيل ذوي القربى والسائلين في الرقاب والمساكين وابن السبيل وأقام الصلاة والسائلين في الرقاب وأقام الصلاة بآدم وآتى الزكاة والصابرين في البأساء إذا الضراء وحين البأس والصابرين في أولئك الذين صدقوا الضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك
who believe in God are those on the side of good and not evil. Those who believe in God are those on the side of good and not evil.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, and a very good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I wish to congratulate Her Excellency. And a very good morning. I wish to congratulate Her Excellency on assuming the presidency of the 80th session of the United Nations. Assuming the presidency of the 80th session. I also comment of the United Nations Antonio Guterres for his bold leadership. Secretary General of the United Nations in his bold leadership of the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, in testing times, our world is more complex today, ladies and gentlemen, than ever before. Our world is more conflicts are intensifying than ever before. International law is being conflicts are brazenly intensifying. International law is being brazenly violated. Terrorism remains a potent threat. Are multiplying. Disinformation. Terrorism remains fake a potent threat. Undermine trust. Disinformation. Climate change. And fake news threatens undermine our very survival. Climate change, and more so, threatens like Pakistan, our very survival today, and more so, multilateralism, countries like Pakistan is no more an option. Multilateralism, need of the hour, is no more an option. Excellencies, need of the hour. Pakistan's foreign policy guided by the vision of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Pakistan's foreign policy guided by based on peace. The vision of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and cooperation is based on peace. We believe mutual in the peaceful settlement and of cooperation through dialogue. We believe and in the peaceful settlement of disputes. Last year, dialogue from this very podium, I had last year that Pakistan from this very podium would act. I had and warned act that Pakistan decisively against any external aggression. Act most decisively against any external aggression. I hope those words of mine prove true. That is destiny. I hope when in May this year, but then my country that is destiny. Unprovoked in May this year, from our country confronted the enemy aggression came shrouded in arrogance. The enemy them back came shrouded humiliation, arrogance. Delivering our bloody nose back in humiliation, delivering our bloody nose. India sought to extract political gains from a human tragedy. Extract by spurning my sincere offer from a human tragedy. Independent by spurning my sincere offer in investigation independent into the Pahalgam international. Instead, investigation into the Pahalgam attacked our cities and targeted our innocent civilians. Attacked our cities when our territory targeted our integrity innocent civilians. National security were violated. Territory our response integrity was in accordance national security with the right of self-defense. Our response under Article was in accordance with the right of self-defense. Our valiant Article 51 under the United Nations Charter of Field Marshal Shehbaz Sharif under the mounted in operation of Field Marshal professionalism, Shehbaz Sharif bravery, mounted in operation of repulsing the enemy's attack, bravery, Air Chief Marshal Zahir Babar repulsing the enemy's attack, falcons under Air Chief Marshal Zahir Babar Sidhu across the skies, resulting in 7 of the Indian jets turned to scrap and resulting a decisive response. The Indian jets turned to scrap and dust. A decisive response. A decisive response to the aggressor that will a decisive response to the annals of the aggressor that the fearless architects of this annals of history to every officer to the fearless and architects of this victory are martyrs. Every officer their names are and forever engraved in glory. Are martyrs. To the mothers of our martyrs are forever courage engraved in glory. Our path forward. To the mothers of our martyrs sacrifice their courage never be guides in vain. Our path inshallah, and the sacrifice and to shall every Pakistani in vain. You stood inshallah as God one willing. Unbreakable Pakistani. You stood as one unbreakable wall. Though in a position of strength, Marsoos, Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire. Though in a position by President Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire and visionary leadership by President, we expressed our deep appreciation to him and visionary and his team for their active role in bringing about the ceasefire, and his team President Trump's active role for peace in bringing about the ceasefire. A more President Trump's efforts for peace had it avert a more threatening war in South Asia and decisively, had it the consequences of a full-fledged timely and decisively catastrophic. The consequences who would have of a full-fledged war what happened, and therefore who would have lived to tell of President what Trump's happened, and therefore wonderful and outstanding of President Trump to promote peace, wonderful in our part of the outstanding world. Pakistan to promote nominated him in our part of the world Nobel Peace Prize, and I think this is the least we could do Nobel for his Peace Prize. Love for and I think peace, this is the least truly he's a man of peace for his love for peace. Ladies and gentlemen, and I think truly he's a man of peace. We're also grateful to our friends and partners, ladies and gentlemen, including China, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. We're also grateful to our friends and Azerbaijan, Iran, China, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Azerbaijan, for extending their diplomatic support and of course, to Pakistan at this crucial time, for extending their diplomatic support to Pakistan. We have won the war at this crucial time. And now we seek to win peace. We have won the war in our part of the world. And now we seek to win peace in our part of the world. And this is my most sincere assembly of the world nations. Pakistan stands ready for a composite of the world comprehensive Pakistan result-oriented dialogue with India, comprehensive, outstanding and result-oriented dialogue with India. South Asia requires outstanding issues. Proactive rather than Asia requires leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, proactive India's rather than provocative illegal attempt to hold the Indus Water Treaty unilateral and illegal attempt to hold the provisions of the treaty itself in abeyance, as well as the norms of international law. The provisions of the treaty has made it as well as the norms of international law. And let there be no doubt, Pakistan has made it once again clear in anybody's mind. And let there be no doubt in this once hall, again from this anybody's podium, as I said last year, we will definitely in this hall and ardently defend, inshallah, we will definitely right and of ardently defend million inshallah on these waters. Right to us of our any violation of this people in this on these waters represents to us an act of war. Any violation of this in ladies and gentlemen represents an act of war. August House, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to assure the Kashmiri House that I stand with them. I wish the people of Pakistan stand with them. That I stand with one day soon, the people of Pakistan stand with them in Kashmir, and will one day soon, inshallah, Kashmir will gain in Kashmir, will come to a grinding halt. Kashmir will gain fundamental right to self-determination. Kashmir will gain impartial its fundamental right to self-determination of through this very impartial plebiscite, United Nations. Excellencies, this very organization, the Palestinian United Nations, is one of the most heart-wrenching tragedies of our times. Is one of the most prolonged, heart-wrenching tragedies is a stain on the global conscience, and our collective is a stain moral failure on the global conscience. And for nearly collective 80 years, moral failure. The Palestinians have courageously for nearly 80 years Israel's brutal the Palestinians have courageously homeland endured in the West Israel's brutal each passing day of brings new brutality in the West Bank. Illegal settlers each passing day terrorize brings new brutality, impunity, illegal and nobody can who terrorize and kill with and impunity. In Gaza and nobody Israel's can genocidal onslaught has unleashed unspeakable genocidal upon women and children unleashed in a manner we have not terror upon women and children in a manner we have not
The 10,005th meeting of Security Council is resumed. 10,005th meeting of Security Council is resumed. Now I give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Jackie Levin. I give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Turkey. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Turkey. Rukiye.
Mr. President, we commend Republic of Korea for organizing this first ever UN Security Council high-level open debate for organizing this first ever intelligence and international peace and security high-level open debate is on its third day dedicated to artificial intelligence, one of the most popular debates as well, which I understand is on its third day. This is truly a historic, one of the most popular debates as well, apparently. But indeed, this is truly a historic and visionary and security domain since will continue to grow for years to come. Artificial intelligence in fact, we already see a growing interest by every state to leverage AI technology. In fact, we already see a growing interest by every state. This is in fact AI technology, and if used responsibly, there is no doubt that AI may bring immense benefit. And if used responsibly, there is no doubt that AI may bring immense benefit in terms of implementation of accuracy and efficiency in particular, and assist can also efforts to protect the implementation of international humanitarian law. But we have to be equally aware that AI can also present many risks in the military domain. But we have to be equally aware that AI can also present many risks in the military domain. So there is no doubt that in the wrong hands mistakes, malign or objectives, AI, and there is no doubt that in the wrong hands or with malign objectives. In fact, you might all remember that AI has been among the technologies once labeled as emerging. All remember that AI has been among the technologies once labeled as a reality and disruptive nature, although it is no longer emerging, especially it is not used responsibly. This is why we must do everything to ensure the responsible use of AI in the military domain, which entails complying with international law, maintaining appropriate human involvement and accountability, and ensuring reliability of AI systems. But I think even more importantly, these efforts should be conducted in a truly multilateral approach.
Israel's recent attack on Doha, territorial integrity, and its continued violations countries of the sovereignty and territorial integrity behavior of numerous countries stands unwaveringly with behavior. Brothers and sisters, Pakistan and Qatar stands unwaveringly with all efforts for a peaceful resolution in Qatar. We also support all efforts for a peaceful resolution. All efforts for a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine. We also support all in line with the UN Charter resolution to end the human suffering conflict and global turmoil. The UN Charter by this to end human sufferings and global turmoil. Pakistan condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Pakistan condemns terrorism. Pakistan has in all its forms and manifestations of global counter-terrorism efforts. Pakistan has suffered over 90,000 global counter-terrorism efforts. 90,000 suffered over 90 of our country, babies, children. We lost mothers, 90,000 brothers people of our country, babies, doctors, children, engineers, mothers, and also suffered brothers, economic loss of $150 billion. And also suffered your heart, economic loss of $150 billion. What can be a bigger manifestation of our commitment to fight terrorism? What can be a bigger manifestation from the face of Pakistan to fight terrorism and erase global world? Not only from the face of Pakistan, a man killed in New York, this is global world. And in Lahore, a man killed in Islamabad is a man killed in London. It's a global village. A man killed in Islamabad, terrorism defeated hands down. It's a global village. This world will not be a peaceful place to live. Terrorism defeated hands down. This world will not be a peaceful place to live. The biggest, and for that, around the globe, Pakistan must be respected and appreciated. Probably because we are a bulwark around the globe. Had these must be respected, not been appreciated, because we are a bulwark. They would have been roaming on the streets of New York and London, and God knows encountered by us. So I think they would have been roaming on the streets of New York and London, and not only for the people of Pakistan, but the people all over the world. Contribution. Today we not only for the people of Pakistan, externally sponsored terrorism all over the world. Particularly from today we face groups such as the TTP terrorism, particularly from foreign Hindustan, BHA, the TTP, Majid Brigade, operating from Afghan soil, these groups are responsible for some of the most heinous attacks inside Pakistan, including the dastardly Jafar Express train incident earlier this year, the train was hijacked and 400 people were kept for days and weeks. And mercifully, by Allah Almighty's grace, our armed forces and law enforcing agencies were able to recover them. Now, as an immediate neighbor and a brotherly country of Afghanistan, Pakistan has a direct stake in a peaceful Afghanistan. We believe that the key to development and prosperity lies in regional stability and connectivity. Pakistan continues to engage with all partners to extend humanitarian assistance, promote economic recovery, and encourage inclusive political framework in Afghanistan. The interim Afghan government must, however, uphold human rights, including women's rights. Above all, we expect that Afghan interim government to take effective action against terrorist groups and to ensure that Afghan soil is not used for terrorism against any country. Ladies and gentlemen, there must be no space for hate speech, discrimination, or violence against any person or against any religion. Hate-driven ideologies such as India's Hindutva-driven extremism pose a danger to the entire world. While there is growing recognition of the dangers posed by Islamophobia, the imperative of effectively combating this menace can hardly be overemphasized. Pakistan welcomes the appointment of a UN Special Envoy to combat this scourge. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are confronted with the climate crisis, it demands the most urgent collective action. In 2022, Pakistan faced massive floods of humongous proportions that caused huge losses amounting to $34 billion and many valuable lives lost. This year again, we are dealing with another mega flood with thousands of villages washed away from the face of the earth, millions of people displaced, more than 1,000 killed, and billions of dollars of crop, livestock, and property washed away, lost to flood waters. Our nation stands united in these testing times, and we are dealing with this natural calamity with remarkable resilience by the grace of God. I have declared a climate emergency to cope with this challenge. The catastrophic floods of 2022 and 2025 this year are glaring examples of loss and damage caused due to climate change. Pakistan, to the contrary, my honorable guests in this hall and through the cameras around the globe, Pakistan contributes less than 1% of global emissions annually, yet it continues to face the relentless brunt and muddy waves of climate change. And then we are told to borrow loans and add on to our debt, huge debt pillars we have over the period of time. This is not fairness. This is not equality. This is not justice. This is not fair play. How can you expect a country which is a developing country facing humongous flood challenges every year due to climate change and no fault of ours, and yet we are told to borrow more loans? I think borrowing loan would be destroying your economy. We will be better off than not borrowing loan and standing on our own feet, working hard, tirelessly, blood and sweat, and we will, inshallah, make Pakistan a great country, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, while we deal with climate change, I bear good tidings on the domestic economic front. Socio-economic development and the welfare of our people are among my government's foremost priorities. We have successfully implemented deep-rooted structural macroeconomic reforms, modernized and broadened our taxation system, intensified efforts to mobilize productive investment, and embraced digitization, AI, and crypto as the tools of the future. Strategic partnerships, including our all-weather cooperation with China through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor under President Xi Jinping's landmark Belt and Road Initiative, are contributors to our progress as I speak. I admire the vision and foresight of President Xi Jinping, whose recently launched Global Governance Initiative, along with other global initiatives, offers a comprehensive framework for a more just, fair, and inclusive development. Excellencies, as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, Pakistan is playing its constructive role in conflict prevention. The unanimous adoption of Resolution 2788 under our presidency of the Council has renewed our collective commitment to multilateralism, respect for the UN Charter, and effective implementation of UN Security Council resolutions. Excellencies, at the end, let me assure you that Pakistan will always stand for peace, justice, and development, for a revitalized United Nations, and for cooperative and multilateralism that is fair and inclusive and delivers for all. Therefore, let this 80th anniversary not simply commemorate history, let us make history and chart a future for the next 80 years with these United Nations as enduring hope for global good. Let us truly strive to become better together. Thank you very much. United Nations, long live. God bless you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Li Qiang, Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of the World Anti-Fascist War. It is also the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. 80 years ago, fascism was defeated in fearless battles by countless heroic men and women around the world. And the United Nations was created upon their ideal